All right, 7 o'clock. Call the meeting to order. Roll call, all members are present. Terry, do you lead us in a prayer?
Yeah, let's pray. Father, thank you for another time to meet as a board, Lord, and I pray that you would be with us, give us wisdom, and bless this school system. And thank you for the teachers and the kids. In your name we pray. Amen.
Public participation, Kelly Buck. We're going to talk about an agenda item and school board meetings.
Yes, I just want to clarify what the information that I had that as a taxpayer that I had to go on whenever I had this headline of a good problem to have, talking about how we can start on 4 projects simultaneously. And I read through it and I try to make a timeline. And I even go back from that 2/13/22 prior, that month prior, 2/7/22, where it states that the school board takes ownership, or the school takes ownership of this very building that we're in. Yeah. I tried to make a timeline, wrote down everything, like middle school roof, stipend, this, that, the other. I get to Gilmore's Good News here on March 26, 2023, and then I go to the agenda, and all it has is either yes or no, and it was voted yes for Gilmore, no for the turf. Wasn't really any mention of turf here. That was kind of a sideline thing. That's all we have to go on. But in this, you go to page 11, where it does say even better for taxpayers is the project won't be costing them. The board isn't seeking a bond issue. The district's bountiful funds will allow it to pay for the project with the money on hand, as well as funds that continue to come in. As of February 2023, the district had $11.9 million in general funds and another $2.2 million in building funds. And it just makes it perceived to the public that all is rosy and everything's taken care of, when actually we've just been spending. It seems like when we okayed the $2,800,000 for the 3 projects prior to it, it seemed like it would be paid off as things kept on going and going. Wasn't even going to get to the turf, but it seems like we had to have Gilmore's Good News before we could have the turf and nuts. That came a month later after Gilmore's Good News. And now we find ourselves with Gilmore having 5 storage containers on their property and project in pause. That's where I get my information. That's how I perceived it as it was going to be done, taken care of. As a taxpayer, I just needed to clarify that to you guys, okay? I mean, that's what I have to go on.
What's your time?
All right, then I'll get to L when we get to L, I guess.
No, that was your time. That was your time. There, for 3 minutes.
You want me to bring up L right now?
If you wanted to, that was your 3 minutes for public participation. That's all we allow. The agenda items will be discussed as a board, but not with the open public.
As it says on your form, those public participations cannot be talked about. I didn't bring up L yet. Also, I was going to mention, as I read that law, it says that if you go on B-B-4, that is on pending litigation.
Yeah.
And that's very vague.
It is,
And
for a reason.
You can't state on the agenda for what topic that litigation's for, it's just,
It's for it doesn't have anything to do with litigation on there. It has everything to do with consultation with the attorney.
but is it not true that, that the law says that it can only be confidential communications between the public body and its attorney concerning a pending investigation, claim, or action?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And that's just how you're gonna leave it that vague?
No, it's not that vague.
Okay.
No, once it comes out of L, then we'll move forward, but there has to be communication with the attorney first.
C, discussion, possible action on minutes of the November 4th, 2024.
Hey, before we go on to
Yeah.
public participation, I think Ms. McManus,
Ms. Magnus.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I should.
Yeah, okay, thank you. We're doing a musical, so my schedule is new this year. So I've kind of gotten behind on some things, but I wanted to quickly recognize our students that made regional honor choir in October. We had 8 high schoolers. They couldn't be here. I forgot to get it on the agenda before we left for break, so that's my fault. But we had Haven Branson, Kinsley Nance, these are freshmen, Gigi Ponce, Thaddeus Stevenson, Shiloh Willingham. And we had senior Bianca Garcia, junior Ethan McLean, junior TJ Washington, and then we had 8th grader Magali Charquino, 8th grader Jackson Garrett, 7th grader Evelyn Martin, who is here, and 7th grader Braylon Schroeder, who is sick. They made regional honor choir, and that's a huge deal. They have to compete, have to have so many points to make it. And then we went to round 1 for All-State, which is, they have to pass that, and that's a regional thing. There's probably 200 kids for each voice part, and they only choose the top 25 to 30 to go to the second round, which is against all the other regions. So that ends up being, this year it was over 120 kids. And they pick the top 25, so those are the top from each region, and then they take the top 25 to 28 for junior high and high school out of those, and they make All-State. Okay, so they're pared down from about 200 for junior high and high school. And we had one high school student, Ethan McLean. He is our Buddy the Elf for the musical, and he's fantastic, so you need to come see him. And then we have junior high's Shiloh Willingham, Patterson's 5th grade. Shiloh Willingham, she's a freshman, she's in the musical, she plays Emily. And Gigi Ponce, who's Miss Ponce's daughter. And this is Gigi's 4th year to make All-State in a row. Braylon Schroeder, who's one of my first 7th graders. Hannah Johnson is here, and she is one of my first 7th graders to make All-State. Because they're competing against, it's junior high is 7th through 9th grade. So they're competing against 9th graders to get into All-State, so, if that makes sense. And then in children's, it's even bigger deal. It's not a bigger deal other than they're competing against more kids. So teachers from all over the state send in their recordings, and there's at least 600 per voice parts. And they pick 50. And so our children's All-Staters, and they're all here today, is Evelyn Martin, 7th grader. Yay! And then we have Lizzie Click, 6th grade. And we have Natalie Grunke, who is very quiet and has a great voice. She's a 6th grader. And so that's a big deal for them to do that. They have to analyze the music, they have to know the music. They have to be able to break that down. So it's good life learning skills that they're doing. So I just wanted to recognize those kids tonight. We will go in January. So I'm usually out of school half of January because I'm at All-State. So I'm very proud of these kids. They are also in these three, Lizzie, Hannah, and Evelyn are also in the musical. So come and see them. They're really good. So thank you.
I'm sorry about that. That was my mistake. We didn't put honors and recognition, so we figured public participation would be the best place to put that.
C, discussion possible action on the minutes of the November 4th, 2024 regular board meeting.
I make a motion to approve those minutes.
All those in favor? Motion passes. D, discussion possible action on the following: general fund encumbrances, 2, child nutrition fund encumbrances, 3, building fund encumbrances, 4, change order listings in general fund, co-op and building, 5, treasurer's report, 6, activity fund custodian's report, and 7, surplus inventory items.
Okay, whenever you look at the encumbrance on page 1 and 2, those are the encumbrances 561 to 1587 for $17,152. That would be primarily for dyslexia RSA expense for training. Then we have, we have quite a bit of STARS expense on there and consumables. We have some reimbursements on dental insurance, professional development for Ms. Ponce, and basically it's just reimbursements. And then we have the Q building lights. Whenever you go to the co-op, and if you want me to slow down, I will. When we go to the co-op, on page 4, if I can get my fat fingers to work here, that's a payroll, page 4 is a payroll encumbrance for Jeannie Lodwig and Pam Warner. And then when we get over to page 5, you'll notice that that's a change, those are change orders for board approval, which are basically moving items around from one fund to the other. But in particular, COSA was so that I could go to get my McCrell training, so I would be legal to, or re-up to do principal evaluations. And we had district-wide supply for the building offices down on Kingfisher Office and Supply. And then we had 33 welding and fabrication to repair the soccer trailer top that's split in two. You move down to, you move over to 6. That is change orders on on encumbrances for the general fund. And then we're trying, then get the co-op fund over on page 8. And we're looking at payroll encumbrances for the co-op, which would be moved from the general fund over into the co-op fund. And we get to the building fund, 2133 and 2134. Floor Tech janitorial is, that's a blanket encumbrance for $50,000 for supplies for the rest of the year. 2133 is a blower motor for KHS classroom. And then we have change orders to increase the building fund encumbrances for repairs of buses, fleet inspections, district-wide building supplies, copy release for the district-wide and district-wide building expense. Then child nutrition, gas solenoid on page 12. Then we get into the summary of treasurer's reports. And this is, let me see if I can make this thing work tonight. There it goes. Okay, if you'll look, this didn't come up like I thought it would. If you'll look on this packet right here that I gave you, if you'll look over on the yellow page, and I am so sorry for that. This is our revenue for December, and we had $710,406. The total revenue, the year-to-date revenue is $7,754,000. Our gross production was $254,018.33, and the total gross production for the year is $1,432,284. This time last year, we'll get to that in a second, but this time last year it was about 300,000 more than what it is right now. The total revenue collection for November was slightly above October's collection. If you look down at the bottom, we were at $691 for October. November was $710,406. If you go to the next page on the revenue trends, this is a pretty good comparison of what we're seeing totally. Right now, we're over collecting from last year at $82,043.26. Gross production is down $308,783.34. And I would remind you, that is our largest form of revenue that we have. It's larger than our ad valorem. It's larger than our state aid. So that's an important number that we've got to keep track of. Foundation state aid is our third largest, and that was $60,000 less than it was this time last year. However, what's really carrying our budget right now is the $577,284.94 that we had with the salary aid that came from last year. So the hard thing about the revenue right now is that we're looking at 2024 and 2025. And on the outside, we've got the specter of 2023, which was one of the highest years we've ever had. And even if we did lose, and we lost a considerable amount of gross production from this time of the year in 2024 to the end of 2024. It was like it was on a cliff diving expedition. But whenever you look at the comparison of the revenues between the years, total revenue was at $13,188,652.25 at this point in 2024. Right now, our collected to date is $7,722,406.39. If you look at the graph up there on the page, if you look up on the top graph and look at the red area is our carryover, and that's what the major difference is right now, what our revenue collections are. That and the fact that we're $300,000 behind on gross production. But as you look at that, if you'll notice the state aid this year is a bigger percentage even though it's down slightly. And that is due primarily to the fact that our carryover's down and our gross production's down. So you have some variance in the actual collections. Whenever you look over on the next page.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So back on the $500,000, let's see here, that we paid in '23 due to teacher pay raises, we had to pay that out of pocket.
Yes.
And we finally got the $577,000.
Yes,
That was actually what we had paid out
the previous
the
year.
previous year. And so for 2024, we're not gonna get that. So that's out, we're out that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I'm just verifying that nothing's changed on that.
nothing has changed on that, unfortunately. We've tried to talk them into it, but for some reason, they don't want to spend extra money. That's a good
They
question.
want us to.
Yeah. Whenever we look at the expenditures comparisons, on the following page, and I did this off the simple function object report. And this is expenditures FY24 to November 23 of 2024 and November 24 of 2025. And it's just because the way the calendar fell on that. But right now, what we're looking at, there's an increase of $45,246.01 over the same time period expenditures on salaries. And that's primarily due to step raises. There's an increase of $13,002.99 in benefits. Once again, that's primarily due to step raises. There is a decrease of $1,680,013.29 in services. That's because we don't have Gilmore going on, and we don't have other things that are being added in on top of that reclamation project. We spent $59,600.36 less in supplies this year, and I've got to give the principals credit. They haven't asked for supplies, so that I guess they believed me when I said no, it was no money. Dues and fees have jumped $136,850. It's primarily due to the legal fees on the county assessor's bill. The expenditure trends continued over on the next page, and the first two sets of tables and graphs are established what the costs were for FY24 and the first quarter of FY25. And as we go down through this, you can see that we're having a change in our percentages, and we're moving down on the bottom, projected FY25 based off of the first quarter. We're looking at being at 81% salary and benefits to expenditures. And that's because as we prorate out what our expenditures are going to be, we're seeing that that's pushing those services and those supplies further in, and we know that those services and supplies are pretty much set where they're going to be. We're not going to see a whole lot of change on those. One thing that does concern me here, and we will talk about this in great detail later, but we are setting over what our new revenue amount would be with salaries and benefits. And that's a treasurer's report.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
on the 81%, can you explain the extrapolated FY fiscal year 25? So 81%, is that 81% of estimate needs?
No, 81% of our expenditures.
Okay.
But right now.
So you don't, okay, that works.
Yeah, and I've got a better explanation of that later on for what you're asking
Do
there.
you have anything in here as to the percentage of revenue for expenses or payroll?
Yes, I did.
All right.
Yes, we'll be able to get to that. Right now, I can tell you, we're setting somewhere, if we continue on the path we're on, this extrapolation graph is probably going to be off about 5%. We're going to be setting about 86% salary and burdens to total budget. You guys have good questions tonight. We've been working with it. Thank you.
I do have one more on the report, if I can ask up on page, you just kept going pretty good. On page 5, there's like 26 for RFR. Is that all for one?
That's from the start of the year.
Okay. And so several different issues probably?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I meant to bring that one up and I forgot it. I'm sorry.
We ready for an action on
Yes, sir.
item D?
Need a motion? I'll make the motion to approve item D.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Motion passes. Discussion, possible action on accreditation status for fiscal year 2025.
Okay, on our accreditation status, and I should have put that on the overhead, but I didn't. we received this last week, and what we had, let me get to that page because I closed it up. We received the accreditation status, and on accreditation status for the district, we were not in compliance with SDE on one area, and that one area was we were over the appropriation by, I think it was $150 in co-op fund. And then on the rest of the buildings, we were okay on Gilmore, Heritage, junior high and high school, but we had a deficiency on the upper elementary because we did not have enough library expenditures to meet SDE regulations. So that's pretty much what we got from SDE on the actual accreditation status. And we wanted to bring that to your attention.
Does that need an action item?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, just discussion.
So we need to buy more library books?
Buy more library books.
Okay.
Yep.
F, discussion possible action to approve fuel bids.
Mr. Puritan took this and did a pretty good job of contacting everybody that we've got. Love's and Casey's and Schwartz Oil Bricks gave us no reply. Then Love's and Casey's and ASAP out of Weatherford all said we needed to get a fleet card, which we already have. CHS offered to set us 2 tanks for $5,900 apiece, and then cost plus freight on the fuel. And then the 330 gallon def tote was going to be $1,026.50 on having the def tote out there. Cowboy Express was doing that at $9.60 which that's a considerable amount of difference because we talked to Western Equipment as well, and they were at $1,010. So Cowboy, I'm recommending that we take Cowboy Express's fuel bids.
And this price per gallon's locked in for?
That's for the DEF.
That's
right.
just
That's for the DEF.
Okay.
We're on rack
Rack price
price.
will be for the
For the
fuel.
fuel, okay.
Yes.
So if I read this right, I think we should throw a plug out to Cowboy because they're giving us the fuel at cost. They're giving us the tanks for free. They're doing the fuel at cost plus freight on both unleaded and like they're just,
They're taking care of us.
yes.
They're doing a community service.
So I think it's pretty cool of them to offer that to the school to help us in a
And
situation.
they called,
At zero margin.
Heath called me and offered that.
Yep.
And I said we'd be more than happy to look at it because, and everybody, I've checked out with a couple other schools that use them and they have all been very happy with what they're doing.
I'd like to say thank you and I'd make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Motion passes. G, discussion possible action to approve basic legal services program agreement with Center for Education Law for school year 24-25.
Yes, this will cut down our cost on legal services with the Center for Ed Law, who we're using on personnel issues and for general guidance on some issues that we have right now. Andy Fugit, one of the managing partners, is here. I've known Andy for a long time. We go way back. You put, even if he does drive a Tesla, he's a pretty good guy.
Did you have to say that?
Yeah, I had to throw that in.
I make a motion we approve item G.
I'll second it. All those in favor? Motion passes. H, discussion and possible action to allow the superintendent to negotiate with Interbank on non-payable warrants for the December payroll.
This is something that hasn't happened yet, and this is but it's something that I need to have permission. I've got to go down and talk to Interbank because we're running pretty low on our funds right now. We believe that we'll get the funds in before the next payroll. But if we do have to do non-payables, I have to make you aware that may happen because we've had the ad valorem issues, and then we're at that position in the year where normally ad valorem comes in and gets everything back up. So we're kind of waiting on that, and that was part of that was my stubbornness, and part of it was just, we had to wait till we got the right answers back. But that doesn't mean that we will be doing it. The process is we'll pay interest on whatever we don't have in the bank to cover that, and it's an amount of interest that's set by the state treasurer.
You're just hoping that if we get the money, we won't need that.
Yeah.
But he needs the ability to negotiate.
Yeah, it's a whole lot better to go ahead and take care of it ahead of time than say, we got to have a special meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve item H.
A second.
All those in favor? Motion passes. I, discussion and action to approve low-income report for the purposes of school lunch program changes.
What we're looking at on the school lunch program is we meet the minimum criteria to be able to go with school-wide feeding program, which would be no-cost school lunches or low-cost school lunches. And we've submitted this on the 22nd of November, but we need you to approve it.
I make a motion we approve.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Motion passes. J, superintendent's report.
I will turn that over to Ms. Collison.
We are starting our benchmark testing here before our winter break. And we also have a special visitor coming to see our students on this Wednesday. It's going to be a nice surprise for them. In the pictures, so they're gonna love it. And then we also have just lots of different events. The students will get to go to the movie. We'll have class parties. Just doing all the fun, exciting things leading up to Christmas break. And that's it.
So for Heritage, it's almost a ditto. Second grade, just before break, they did go to the Science Museum and took a trip there, so that was fun for them. I do want to report that the AC and heaters have been installed, and I had heat in my office. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. They're still finishing up a few things on the ceiling, but thrilled. So we were all very, very, very pleased with that, so thank you. Like she said, we've got a special visitor coming. That special visitor will also be at Little Stingers that same day. We've got some things from some of the kiddos earned some special rewards from our fundraisers, so that's happening as well. Parties, we're doing the middle of the year. We did our middle of the year Amira screening today, and we're going to finish it up this week. The third grade has their music program on the 10th. There is going to be an evening showing, so come and check that out. And then the third grade is also going to the Nutcracker at Civic Center, so we're excited about that. So that's Heritage.
For the Q, our students have also been working on benchmarks and testing. It's amazing how capable your students are when you tell them that if they don't start trying, that they're going to be put in remediation, and then all of a sudden their test scores flying through the roof, and so our scores have like doubled in the past couple of months because the students are actually trying and are motivated to start really showing what they know in class. And so we've seen a huge gain in all of our benchmarks that we've done. We did a little staff morale boost this month too, where we played some tricks on our students and had underground dress-up days. One of our favorites was we dressed up like Secret Service. We all had on black jackets and glasses, and our kids thought that was hilarious. And so it was a good kind of morale booster for our staff for a couple days a week. For the month of November, we did little fun things to surprise the kids when they came to school. So it's been a good month at the Q.
At the junior high, the week before we went on break, our kids played at the Lomega tournament, and our 8th graders won the boys bracket. So I was real proud of them and how they played, especially against Watonga. Also, our teachers this past month did VR training with through Prisms, who this is for math and science. Several teachers commented that it was the best training they've ever done. Ms. Myers thanked me for making her go to it, so I was excited about that. And we've started introducing it to our kids and had really good responses from our kids as well. So
shout out Nellie Sanders.
yeah, Ms. Sanders helped us get these. We're one of 2 districts in the state to pilot this. And if it goes well, then they will look at moving forward through the state.
They'll be here on Thursday filming a documentary.
That's right,
The lady
yeah.
that started this is filming a documentary. Sorry to
No, you're fine.
thunder
Go ahead.
thief. At the high school, 'tis the season, testing as well. We have an ACT workshop on Wednesday where the Oklahoma State Regents of Higher Ed is coming, and they're going to spend all day with us. They're going to meet with departments during Common Plan, and then during early release, they're going to come in and go over individual student response analysis, and they're going to adjust their curriculum based off of those student response. So they're going to go over pre-ACT, the sophomore pre-ACT results that they just took. So we're excited about that. That ought to be tailored news you could use for instruction. We recently held our NHS induction ceremony that, going back as far as we can remember, we had 43 new inductees, which is as many as anybody can remember. We had a full house, didn't have enough chairs, but we rallied and got places for people to sit. Chris talked about Prisms. High school basketball starts tomorrow. I was talking to Swisher before we open tomorrow night here at home with Merritt. And Merritt, both the boys and girls team were state qualifiers last year. Merritt girls won it in 2A, and boys qualified, got beat out, but this ought to be a good early test for our basketball team. And Miss Magnus, you know, we have Elf Junior musical starting December 12th through the 14th, and yours truly, Mike, I've always wanted to say I'm putting on weight and growing this out for a part. So that's what I'm doing. I may be Santa in the play. So that's it from high school.
Got anything?
Well, yeah, we did. We got test scores back today from the state. And we are well above state average. We haven't broke all the scores down. And they've changed the testing program enough that it's not like what I'm used to looking at. I'm a little bit rusty on that, but I think I might be able to figure it out. But the kids have performed pretty well. We're right there. Kingfisher County is, in math and reading, is higher than what the rest of the state is, and we fit that mold. And the rest of the state has a lot of work to do to keep up with everybody around us and keep up with us. I was really pleased with that, and we'll have an in-depth report for you next month.
Okay, report of the superintendent on revenue reduction for fiscal year 2025 in response to the reduction of appropriation. From the Kingfisher Board of Education, adopted estimate of needs of 9/16/2024, Schedule Y, Addendum A. That was altered by the Kingfisher County Excise Board on 9/23/2024 and 11/22/24, Schedule Y, Addendum B.
Okay, if you'll look up on if you'll look on your, back to your blue packet. The top one up there, for those of you that don't have a handy-duty blue packet, is the estimate of needs that was originally submitted to the Excise Board of $16,200,523.76. The bottom graph is the general fund estimate of needs of $14,203,959.12. What I'm recommending is that we do make this isn't to recommend you do any kind of action, because we don't necessarily agree with the with the county excise board, but I have been in contact with the State Board of Equalization and got to be pretty good friends with one of their attorneys. He's a really nice guy. And we gave them the balanced budget, or the balanced estimate of needs, to make everything fit what the State Board of Equalization was requiring. What this basically turns into is that we have an estimate of needs that is $1,996,564.64 less than appropriation for the general fund. The amount for the sinking fund stayed the same, 27.42 mils in both of them. And the way this was accomplished was 15.1 mils was removed from the original estimate of needs. So, with that all said, that's been in the paper, we've talked about that ad nauseum. One of the things that we had to talk about in this whole thing was state aid. And if you'll turn over to the yellow page, and I know this isn't going to show up like it's supposed to. There we go. Nope, it's not. We're going to have to work on that. What I want you to look at on this in particular, these two pages right here. The left one is what our initial state aid allocation was. The right one would mean, the left one would mean. And then the right one is what state aid would be if we were figuring it with this set of circumstances with the millages. So whenever we did, and we asked the state directly, if our voters had voted the millages, and the excise board moved millages, even though that the voters had approved all the millages they were able to, would we be able to keep state aid? And their answer was yes, which really surprised me. And then they said, and guess what? We're going to have to go back and calculate this. So when we calculated it, because we lost somewhere around 49% of our total millages, what you're looking at right here is you're looking at $2,273,280.10 under the adjusted valuation on the left. Whenever they calculate it with the actual change in millages, it drops the actual valuation chargeable down to $84,195.45. If we were not a gross production school at the size that we are, that would drive our state aid up. It has no net effect on us. It doesn't fill in the hole like we were hoping it would. But we do have we do have a backup plan, sort of, kind of, if we see the continued drop on the gross production. My rough math on that is if we drop below 3.2 million on gross production, we'll go back on the top part of the 7A formula as well. So that's where our revenue is right now. So what we've got to look at as we look at the revenue picture is that we've got to realize that we've got to change what we're doing with our revenue, and we've got to do some changes as far as what we're doing with encumbrances for personnel purposes. Was that complete?
That was clear.
Yeah, I think so. For a little bit of good news in this equation is that the state aid formula, we didn't get penalized when we could have, am I right? And how did we kind of avoid that, Andy?
Well, I really credit Don and Pam with this, because we were going over the estimate of needs pretty laboriously. We were spending a lot of time, and they kept saying that line in the estimate of needs that whenever the clerk of the board signs an estimate of needs, the signature on that is that those were duly passed by the people of Kingfisher, by the patrons of Kingfisher School District. Well, we talked about it for a long time, and we went and we actually got the election ballot from the county election board. And it was passed on February 12th, 2002, that made those permanent. And whenever I was corresponding with the attorney from the State Department, I made sure and asked that question in the way that I said that I asked it, because I wanted to make sure that if we did have that millage passed, we were still eligible for state aid, which we were. And I got to give Pam and Don credit for sticking with me on that, because I don't know how many, I think our eyeballs were about to bleed from reading that.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that we could have lost a lot more on the state aid part. That would have really been tough on the
Oh,
district.
absolutely, absolutely. The other frightening part about this is that if this becomes an issue that goes on a regular basis in other excise boards, this could cause some major issues for state aid. This really could. I mean, we're going to do what we've got to do to make sure that our ends are met. But there is an equity issue there that is a little bit frightening.
Thank you.
Is that it okay?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I should have said something. I
We're waiting.
thought we were
L,
ready.
discussion, possible action to convene into executive session to have confidential communication with the board's attorney about a pending matter, claim, or proceeding upon the advice of the attorney that disclosure would seriously impair the ability of the board to process or respond to the matter, claim, or proceeding in the public interest, 25 OS 307B4.
I make a motion we convene into executive session at 7:48. I second.
All those in favor? Motion passes. Kingfisher Board of Education met in executive session on December 2nd, 2024. Board members consisting of Charles Walker, Carlos Banks, Terry Payne, Dana Goldbeck, and Brad Whitrock entered into executive session at 7:48 p.m. and returned to open session at 8:51 p.m. Matters listed on the board agenda were considered in executive session. No other matters were discussed. No board action was taken in executive session.
Please note my attendance in executive session, please. Thank you.
M, discussion, possible action on change orders for the reduction of payroll encumbrances to reduce Kingfisher Board of Education payroll encumbrances to align with Schedule Y from the Kingfisher Board of Education estimate of needs as altered by Kingfisher County Excise Board 9/23/2024 and 11/22/2024.
If you'll look up on the screen, we have a discussion of where we're at right now. Currently, we have $16,791,000 worth of total encumbrances, of which of that is $13 million, $13.5 million, which is salary and benefits. We have to get below on number three. Let's see, on number three, yes. We have to get below $14,203,595. That's going to require that we remove at least $1,996,564 worth of total salary. That would be from the start of the year to the end of the year. So what our goal is here is that we need to get your authority to do change orders on encumbrances, which would primarily be payroll encumbrances, in order to get below that $14,203,505.
I'll make a motion to approve item N.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Motion passes.
Okay, resignations. Which one?
I think just one, Brenda.
Yes, she is leaving us. She got certified, and she is going to work at Hennessy Schools as a counselor.
This, Brenda, him and Lord. I make a motion, I so move.
I'll second it. All those in favor? Motion passes. Announcements, new business?
Thank you.
One announcement we've got is we do have the training on Wednesday on ACT for the high school, and they will be out on early release. No one else will. And I keep having people ask me about this early release deal for everybody on the day of Christmas. The day Christmas break starts on the 20th, and we'll evaluate that as we get closer. We really don't have extra days to do that. The earliest we'd be able to do that would be at 2 o'clock so that we could get a full day in. And we probably will do that because everybody's asked me, but I'm not really, we'll just have to work through that.
I'd like to just, for those that are paying attention, to now that the dates get away, that are paying attention to the school board and what's going on. We have until Wednesday to get any packets turned into the courthouse for anybody interested in running for a school board position for next year.
Any new business?
No.
Q, adjournment.
I would make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Motion passes.